Hey everyone, this is Scott from the Forgot to Grow podcast. Welcome to another edition of ReWatching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Today I'm talking about Season 4, Episode 4, Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire. I'm just going to be starting off with the plot summary and then talking about my general thoughts about this episode, any foreshadowing and Easter eggs I might have noticed. But let's just start with that plot summary, which says Daisy coerces Simmons to help track the Watchdog's actions, discovering that the group hacked the Inhuman list using an Inhuman monitoring device. Coulson visits Morrow in prison but gets no answers. Reyes arrives to talk to Morrow, and Mac recognizes him as the Ghost Rider. They capture Reyes and earn his trust. He visits Morrow and learns that the momentum explosion was caused by a group of scientists studying the Darkhold, a mysterious book. Only Lacey's husband Joseph, whom Morrow had put in a coma trying to stop the experiments, survived. Daisy and Simmons find the next Inhuman on the list, James, and destroy his monitor, but he betrays them. He hates being an Inhuman and is aiding the Watchdogs. Coulson and Mac, alerted by the monitor's destruction, arrive to save Daisy and Simmons. The Ghost Rider defeats James. They then get May to help find the Darkhold. Ada supervised May's recovery as a Turing test by Radcliffe, but Simmons deduces her true nature while being set to take a lie detection test for Mace. So that's the plot summary for this episode. I enjoyed this one a little bit more than some of the other episodes because we get a little bit more action in this one. We get Ghost Rider being Ghost Rider, and I love that. We get a car chase. Love a TV show where they throw in a random car chase with two awesome cars. It's the Ghost Rider car versus Lola. I just really enjoyed that. This one has a lot of little tiny things that I like that are just the big reasons why I like shows like this. And that's things like, Radcliffe, you're just being like, acting to Fitz like, well, it's no big deal. I'm just testing Ada out on May. Why are you so upset, Fitz? And it's like, Radcliffe, you know why Fitz is upset. You know why Fitz is frustrated. Why he's nervous. Don't play it like that, Radcliffe. But I love that little thing just because that's part of his character. He's just like, well, no, I'm just a scientist. This is what I'm doing. That you call it mad science, I just call it interesting science. And I'm just like, Radcliffe, you old dog, you. And the fact that, like, when he's introducing Ada to everybody, he's kind of letting them answer their own questions, and Ada's not even really, like, lying to any of them. She's just kind of giving them half-truths, and I'm just like, I just loved all these little details about this episode. But yeah, this episode's really fun. There's a few other things I really enjoyed about this one. At the beginning, we get this little thing, which is awesome, that kind of relates to last episode, which is S.H.I.E.L.D. is officially back in the spotlight. They're not in the shadows anymore. At the beginning of this episode, we see that with Coulson whipping out the S.H.I.E.L.D., saying strategic homeland, yada, 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 S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm just like, yes, he's not pretending to be FBI anymore. He's not pretending to be CIA or whatever, Interpol, whatever thing that he was pretending to be. He's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. again, and I just really enjoyed that. I just, like, again, just this tiny little detail, him just showing his badge, introducing himself as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. when he meets Morrow in prison. And I just love that little detail as we get back to them being agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the spotlight of the world, the MCU world, that is. But yeah, some other things I liked about this episode, May meeting Ada, and the fact that May doesn't really put it together, but at the same time, I'm like, well, why would you ever assume somebody who looks human isn't human? But at the same time, I don't live in the MCU, so. But I also like that it's obvious, it's very obvious now, like I mentioned it in the last video, but it's really obvious in this episode. This is where obviously Radcliffe did some of the switching around of May with the LMD May, and that the Turing test was actually Fitz and May, and that if May was a convincible LMD to get, like, fool Fitz and fool the team into letting May join back in. And I just like, that's such a little thing that you would never get unless you've already seen the show before. So the rewatch is just, I love those little details from the rewatch. You get just seeing, like, how they had shaped this season from the very start, stuff that you might not have picked up on when you're first watching it. Because why would you think that May was an LMD? Like, up to this point, you have no reason to believe that. But in the rewatch, you're like, oh, well, we know what happens. This is the only time it could have happened. I just love those details. It's just one of the best parts about this show. But yeah, some of the other things I liked about this, I already mentioned about Coulson chasing Ghost Rider in Lola in his beautiful red Corvette. I just love it. They mentioned how the flight thing wasn't working at that time, but they didn't need it because they forced Ghost Rider to drive into an invisible Quinjet, which I always forget that that's how they stop him every time. I've seen this episode at least 3. This is probably at least the 3rd or 4th time I've watched this episode, and every time I forget that's how they stop it. I'm just like, oh, it gets me every time. But yeah, one of the other things I like, we see Gemma and Daisy fighting against some watchdogs at one point. They're trying to escape, and you see Gemma just doesn't even hesitate. I've already mentioned this a couple times before, and I mentioned it in the last video about Fitz, but you see Gemma just not even hesitate and just ice a couple guys with the gun as they need to escape, and I just love how much her and Fitz's character have grown from, like I said in the last video, from these little scared scientists to these just full-on agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who are just fully prepared to be in the field and like don't even hesitate anymore, don't even think twice. They just react like they're supposed to. They're not quite specialist level of May, but they hold their own for being a couple scientists, a couple people who spent all their training learning about science, not about defending themselves, and they can still do it with keeping up with some of these with the other team members. And I just really enjoyed that little bit. Just damn it, shooting some people. But yeah, and then we get the end of the episode. We see Daisy and Ghost Rider joining with the team. Coulson's kind of like, we're all doing this. We're on the same team here. I get you guys need to be rebels and you need to go do your own thing, but like, stop it. Come join the team. I'm sick of this. Okay, I was just like, it felt like it was such a dad conversation because Coulson is the dad of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he had to give the 2 teenagers a talking to. He's like, I know you guys are being rebellious, but the family needs some shit right now. So you gotta stop your rebel phase, come home. We got some stuff to do. And that's how I at least felt that the conversation was, especially with the 2 of them just kind of sitting there in the plane, just like, yeah, okay, Coulson. And they end up joining. So I'm just like, that was a dad speech, and I liked it. That's my favorite. One of my favorite things about Coulson, that he's the dad of the team. But yeah, and the last thing, Gemma figuring out that Ada is an LMD. I just love that little like not even for a second was she fooled. She just right away to Fitz is like, oh, it's amazing. Like, I can't believe how real she is. And he's just like, wait, you know? And it's like, well, of course I know. Do you know? And it's just like, well, yeah, of course I know. And I just love that little interaction, just a fun little thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode for just a bunch of the little tiny little things they gave us throughout this episode. But what did you enjoy about this episode? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for joining me today, and have a good one.